Hi, welcome to the video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy, and comment your thoughts and opinions on the stories. Let's get started. Am I the antagonist for getting mad at my grandma for telling my dad that I'm getting married? So when I, 24F, was like 8, I broke a vase that was precious to my stepmom. I don't think she ever liked me, but she was like to my dad, it's me or it's her. I thought for sure my dad would choose me cause I was so close to him, but that night he told me I was going to grandma's. I honestly didn't believe it till I got there and he left, and I guess that just changed something in me. He phoned every day and tried to see me every day too, and at first I pretended to be happy, but I wasn't cause I wasn't home. I know that I stopped pretending pretty fast, and looking back I acted apathetic to him. Like not angry or sad but just emotionless. I know sometimes I heard him complain to grandma about me acting so differently than before. When I was 9, I told my mom I wanted to move in with her full time, cause I just started hating phone calls and visits from my dad. Even though she had a tiny apartment she said yes. Honestly, I slept in the same bed as her till I moved in with my fiance. Don't care though cause she's my mama, and it was better than having my own room and having to deal with him every day. My mom and I have become super close and she enrolled me in after school stuff so I could avoid my dad, and contact just ended, and I'm thankful for it cause I didn't have to be there for him. Like, a few years ago, stepmom gave birth and there was a big celebration, and I'm so happy I'm nowhere in sight and that I haven't even seen the kid yet. I'd really only see him on birthdays or when he came to grandma's home when I was there. My fiance had a low-key proposal a week ago and I told my mom, my uncle, mom's cousin, and my grandma. Now my grandma knows how little I talk to my dad and how out of the loop I keep him. So it was a surprise when I got a phone call from my dad inviting me to a family dinner so I could introduce my fiance and meet my baby brother. I made up an excuse cause screw that. It was obviously grandma who told him, and I got mad at her and ended up yelling at her. I got a text from my dad like an hour ago which chastised me for taking out my issues with him on grandma. As much as I hate to say it, he may be right about that. Now for the top comments. All you need to say is that you and your fiance, congrats by the way, have no interest in having dinner with the man who chose his wife over his child because of a broken vase, and we are not even going to go into the fact that stepmother got away with such an ultimatum in the first place. He made his bed, and now he can lie in it. No joke. Father of a 9Y/O. And there's no way I'd pick a GF over my young child for any reason. But a ref at #NG vase, I'd have given myself a hernia laughing her ass out the door the moment YUBTTER chews past her lips. Sounds like dad and stepmom deserve one another, and not much else. NTA. But please text your dad back. You chose your wife over an 8-year-old child. That was the day I stopped being your daughter. Please don't contact me again, because I have no desire to have a relationship with you in any way. Then, call or text your grandma and tell her you do not want her to tell your father anything, or you'll have to put her on an info diet. Over your 8-year-old child. Not any child. His child. That's fucked up. Can't you send a vase to your dad and stepmom to congratulate them with the baby, with an card that will let him know to never contact you again? Am I the antagonist for not tipping a waitress because of a couple accidents she had? I do live in the US. I understand there is a tipping culture. I frequent at a certain restaurant that I take my wife to every other week. I'm a regular there, and most of the staff knows me, and I know most of them. Today, I saw this new girl that was tending to my table. She looked pretty young and not experienced. While she was coming to us with the food, she was using improper technique in carrying her tray, and it was pretty lopsided. I had a sneaking suspicion that something bad was going to happen. And a glass of Coke fell on me. She was beyond mortified, and as was I. She didn't even offer to bring me towels before I asked her. We then ordered a tableside dish that required some amount of prep tableside. Once again, while she was trying to get the dressing on the plate, she aimed the front of the bottle at me and hit the back. Some of the dressing did hit my shirt again. At this point I wasn't bothered to do anything and just went on with it. I don't think she even noticed. When the bill came, I just put a 0.2% tip, a quarter. The people who usually serve me know that I'm a pretty heavy tipper, 20-30% depending on service. But I just put the amount of effort she put. When we got out of the restaurant, my wife was beyond pissed at me. She said that I should been more compassionate towards her, especially considering that she's new. She also said that the manager might fire her because of my unusually low tip. Am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. Info: are you exaggerating the stinginess of the interaction? Or did you really leave a quarter tip on a $125 check? Judging from this entire story, he probably wasn't exaggerating it, or if you had an bad experience with a server, fine and fair, don't leave a tip. You, on the other hand, decided to leave a demeaning tip, and that makes you an asshole. No one goes to work to be insulted or demeaned. This person may have been inexperienced, but she is someone's daughter, partner, friend, and you saw fit to treat her in a demeaning and dehumanizing fashion. Shame on you. Good thing you're a regular. Now everyone knows what a nasty piece of work you really are. I've been a regular at many places. Because of this, on multiple occasions when someone is new, they let them cook for me first or serve me first cause they know I'm kind and generous and I won't get pissed if they make a mistake. Maybe this place was trying the same and this guy just showed how rude he really is. AITA, you knew she was inexperienced and you made sure to go out of your way to make her feel even worse about her lack of training. A quarter? Real nice daddy Warbucks. Maybe you cold also included a note telling her not to spend it all at one place. Am I the antagonist for pulling my wife out of a situation with my dad? My dad is the kind of person who, if he were born 60 or 70 years later, would be on TikTok posting videos that end with him going, "It's just a prank, bro." He always tells jokes, makes comments, and plays pranks to the amusement of himself and his similarly boomer friends, but not to anyone else. 3 years ago, my cousin gave birth to her first child, my godson. Since she and her husband were living with us, it's a big house. I used this opportunity to see how my dad might treat my then fiancé once we had kids. I didn't like it. He started referring to my cousin like she was a maid and called her the kid's nanny. She took it in good humor, but I decided that my dad would have limited contact with mine and my wife's kids. A few months ago, my wife gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. We named them Luke and Leah. We finally got to bring the twins to my parents' house to meet their grandparents, and my dad started on his bullshit again, calling my wife a maid, calling her the twins' nanny, calling me a woman because I did things like change diapers and fed the twins. When we had a moment alone, I told my wife that we were leaving because I could not tolerate how my dad was treating her, and here is where I might be the asshole. She told me that she could handle it. It wasn't bothering her. I still went ahead with my decision to leave, and I told my dad that if he wanted to see his grandkids ever again, then he'd have to apologize and never pull that bullshit again. My mom eventually forced him to apologize. She loves being around kids, and the twins are her first grandkids. But it was very insincere and very much an "I'm sorry you were offended" type of apology. I refused and told him off. So I need a Reddit opinion. Am I the asshole for pulling my wife and kids away from their grandparents, even though my wife was okay with his jokes and comments? Confirmatory edit. Yes, I actually named the twins Luke and Leah. I'm probably the asshole for doing that, and I'm looking into options for legally adding a second name, so they have the option of not going by Luke or Leah when they get older. Second edit. Holy shit. I woke up to get the twins fed, and wow, this blew up. I'll accept that I'm an asshole for naming my kids Luke and Leah, but I want to address what might be the ultimate fandom bad faith argument. Leah kissed Luke once to make a point to Han before they knew they were related. Luke reached out to Leah through the Force in a moment of distress, and Han assumed Leah wanted to be with Luke. That's the extent of their incest. God, you'd think they were like Ultimate Universe Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch with all the herder incest remarks. Now for the top comments. NTA, you set boundaries on how you will and will not allow yourself and your family to be treated. That's healthy and more people need to learn how to do it. You set boundaries on how you will and will not allow yourself and your family to be treated. This part needs to be emphasized. It's not just the wife who is being affected here. She says she can handle it, but the joke extended to Op as well, and he has the right to not expose himself to that. Not to mention that allowing that kind of behavior around the kids is harmful to their development too. Dad's joke undermined Op as a parent, while also managing to hit both misogyny and toxic masculinity. I say throw grandpa out with the next dirty diaper. NTA finally a husband that stands up to the shit parent and doesn't force his wife to deal with it. Thank you seriously. Just because she can handle it doesn't mean she should. And since it's your dad, it's your place to stand up. Good job. Keep telling him off and changing those diapers. Plus eventually the kids will notice the behavior when they grow up and think it's normal how their grandparent is talking to others and that it's just a joke as an excuse for everything. NTA. Just because your wife was okay with the jokes or at least said she could handle them doesn't mean you need to be okay with them. First, your dad made remarks about you too, so you can just set your own boundaries based on how he was treating you. Second, you have a daughter. So what is he going to say to her? And how will she absorb his open sexism? Third, you have a son. So how is he going to be impacted by this humor? What if he sees his grandpa as a hero and starts saying the same type of stuff? Bottom line, you can be offended and should be about what your dad says. And your kids aren't really safe to be around him as they get older. If he thinks what he is saying is okay, you don't need to act on behalf of your wife though. Just be offended and set boundaries based on your own feelings and the respect you think that you, your wife, and people in general deserve. And I can't help but point out that while your mom might love her grandchildren, she isn't doing anything to stick up for basic human decency either. So you should be low contact with both of them. Am I the antagonist for not wanting to help? My sister just had a baby. My mom wants to visit her and help her with the cleaning, cooking, etc. so she can spend all her time with the baby. I said I didn't want to help, and she was annoyed with me. She said if I didn't help I can't come. I said that was fine, and I would stay home. My mom agreed that I could stay home as long as I called her every day to let her know I was deliver safe. However, today she told me she's turning the internet off before she leaves and said she won't turn it back on until she returns. I think this is unfair that I'm being punished for not wanting to clean my sister's messes. She said I'm not being punished, but if I won't do something nice for my sister she isn't going to let me use the internet either. She then said she was going to call the phone company and have my cell phone turned off. We have a landline until she returns. I asked my mom what will happen if there's an emergency when I'm out. She said even disabled phones can call 911 and that I'm not allowed to go anywhere but school anyway. And if she calls the house and I don't answer she won't turn my phone back on ever. I think she's being crazy. We keep arguing. And she says she's going to do all this first thing tomorrow. She leaves Wednesday. I've never seen her act like this. Am I really wrong? Now for the top comments. Info. How far away does your sister live? How old are you? 4 hours and 17. Reading the comments. I'm getting troll vibes. 100% I've seen so many stories about teenagers being forced to look after siblings/parents' babies under such unreasonable circumstances that I just don't believe like 90% of them anymore. Am I the antagonist for using insulting wallpapers for my phone's home screen after my coworkers kept touching it? Okay, this might sound ridiculous, but allow me to take the time to explain. So I am 28, started working at this company for 6 months. My guy coworkers are decent. However, I noticed a pattern with my female coworkers, a couple of them, which consists of them appending licking through my phone whenever they get the chance, me using the bathroom meeting etc. So far I've caught them doing it 3 times. They didn't take something or open any apps because I would've known, but still didn't know why they kept snooping. I wanted to tackle this issue in a non-confrontational way since they're both beyond sweet except for this snooping thing. So what I did was set up insulting or offensive wallpapers Some of them I made myself. Wallpapers that say, "Don't touch my phone, Ashel Emigal Widow," or "I can see you," with John Cena waving his hand, or B_don't touch my phone, with a middle finger in the middle of the screen. It was just an experiment, but apparently it got to them. They claimed that I had offended them on a personal level, called them names and so on. I told them they had no business touching my phone, but they made excuses saying they were just trying to borrow my charger, check the time, etc, etc. The office got split. Some said I should come to the ladies if I really had an issue. Some say I was justified, and ultimately no one gets to control what I use as my wallpapers. They are now expecting a formal apology, but I refused. Am I the antagonist? Did I handle this inappropriately? Now for the top comments. This whole situation is bizarre. Your company must have policies regarding this behavior. It's not work related. First of all, they are goofing off. Secondly, this is harassment. Like looking through your wallet. They don't sound sweet at all. Right. You don't forfeit your right to privacy going into the office. A coworker can't decide to come use my corporate card if I leave my wallet on the desk when I go to a meeting or the bathroom. If you do truly work somewhere sensitive enough to worry about it, you'd likely have to check your phone at the door or have a true zero device policy. That would be no secret to anyone. NTA, keep your hands off and nose out of things that aren't yours. They would never have even seen the offensive wallpaper at all if they hadn't been snooping. The punishment perfectly fits the crime. They chose to do something nosy and invasive, and were rightfully called out as a result. Am I the antagonist for letting my sister get more of the inheritance? Throwaway account because I don't want sister to see it. My parents have 3 children, me, 37F, sister, 35F, and brother, 26 male. My sister and her family live very close to my parents, and she has been taking care of them for the past 2 years, since their health started deteriorating. For that, my parents decided to give her our childhood home, and my brother and I would get a smaller apartment and share the earnings from the sale equally. I live over 5 hours away from my parents with my husband, 38, and son, 3. I tried to visit us often as I could to help out, but my husband kept complaining about having to take care of our kid, though I never complained when he would go on trips with friends and leave me alone when our son was a newborn. Honestly, I have a lot of resentment for him for how unsupportive he was while I was taking care of my sick parents. My brother lives only 2 hours away from our parents, but he never visited to help, claiming that he was too busy, as if sister and I weren't. We lost my mother 2 weeks ago. Yesterday I returned home from work to find my brother there sitting with my husband. Long story short, they had talked and felt it was unfair that my sister get the house while we only get a small apartment, and wanted us all together to speak to my father about it. I refused. Told them I had already spoken to my parents about it and agreed that my sister deserved it for taking care of them. My brother didn't take it well and accused me of always loving my sister the most, prioritizing her above everyone. That even my own kid and husband came second to her. My husband agreed with him, and I was furious and called them both entitled, greedy, selfish, and that I was perfectly capable of giving my son a good life without stealing from his cousins. I threw my brother out and threatened to cut him out of my life if he brought up the inheritance to our grieving father. Afterwards, my husband and I fought more. He argued that we could use the money, that I needed to put the family I made before my sister. What would our son think in the future when he found out I essentially gave away money our family could use because I always loved my sister and nieces more? But we own our apartment, have no debt, both have high paying jobs and good savings. We don't need the money, and I believe that when our son finds out about this in the future, it will be a valuable lesson over choosing family over money. So, am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. Honestly, I have a lot of resentment for him for how unsupportive he was while I was taking care of my sick parents. NTA, and might I suggest some therapy to decide if you want to stay in this marriage? The general assholeness of your spouse and brother to try to vulture your father 2 weeks after the death of your mother is appalling. Even if you do end up with an inheritance, make sure the funds are never commingled. I'd look into a trust for your child, one that can't be affected by divorce. NTA, your sister sacrificed so much of her time and energy caring for your parents, she deserves it. That aside, it's your parents' money and they get to decide exactly what is done with it, and it seems like they made a very well thought out decision. It really does hurt when we thought people were better than they proved to be. I'm sure you married a better person. I don't blame you for being so disappointed in your husband and brother. One of my mother's siblings took on the brunt of the care for their mother and the estate work after her death. After all was said and done, they decided to pay her more than had been agreed upon in the inheritance because it was so much work.